USAA knows dynamic duos can save the day, like superheroes and sidekicks or auto and home insurance. With USAA, you can bundle your auto and home and save up to 10%. Learn more and get a quote at USAA.com/bundle. Restrictions apply.
Hey, it's Paris. You know I love sparkly things, right? Like stars. Duh. And thanks to Hilton and Auto Camp, I just slept under them. Picture me, serving looks by the fire outside my luxurious Airstream, making s'mores with the kids, while a national park is our backdrop. The great outdoors meets Hilton hospitality. That's hot. Explore all the new ways to stay at Hilton.com. Hilton for the stay.
Welcome into 49ers Access. My name is Sterling Bennett, and today we are reacting to day number 1 of San Francisco 49ers training camp. The boys in red and gold were back on the field today for the first time since January. 6 months ago, it is a new season. There is new hopes of a playoff run come the end of the year, but first we have to make it through training camp and the preseason, and we're going to dive into everything that transpired on the field today. Going to get into a little bit of what happened with Kyle Shanahan in his post-practice press conference, because he said some really telling things that may give us an idea as to where the position battles on the roster may end when it's all said and done. But don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And without further ado, let's dive into day 1 of San Francisco 49ers training camp. And before I get into what happened on the field itself, I do want to give you some quick hitting notes to begin today's show. The first couple being Nick Bosa, Trent Williams, and Christian McCaffrey all practiced today, but all 3 of them just did individual drills only. Nick Bosa looked like himself. He is now the veteran in the edge rushing room. He seems to be carrying the weight of that and taking it seriously walking into the season. Trent Williams, they showed the video of him kind of pounding his fist like a silverback walking onto the training camp facility today, which is brand new when it comes to how the fields are organized. No longer are they horizontal. They are now both vertical. There's like a 165-yard field, like a just under 100-yard field. They redid the entire thing. It was weird and awkward to see things out there, but Trent's back out there looking pretty good, looking spry, and the ankle looks healthy for the first time since the middle of the year last season. Then, of course, Christian McCaffrey, the debates of if he's 100% or he's slow or fast or has that 5th gear still, those answers will hopefully come in the next few weeks or so, but he's out there, did not take part in team drills, but did participate in individual drills during training camp today. You'll see some highlights on social media. He looks like Christian McCaffrey, so a good sign there, but a first easing in process for the veterans on day 1 of training camp. Funny enough, though, Nick Bosa in his post-practice press conference talked about maybe sliding inside at times this year, so we may see Nick Bosa have a new role in 2025, where in previous years he was strictly playing on the outside or on random, oftentimes last year dropping in coverage with Nick Sorensen, that defensive coordinator. I don't think you'll see that too much this year with Robert Saleh back, but Nick Bosa seemingly willing to move inside during the season, maybe to have Sam Okwanu or Yetur Gross-Matos or Micah Williams or Bryce Huff play on the outside next to him, but maybe some further developments in Nick Bosa's career as he inches closer to the age of 30 with now his, 5th defensive coordinator with the San Francisco 49ers. Much has been made of the team's wide receiver injuries this season, and I get it. Jauan Jennings may hold out, may hold in. We'll talk about him in a second. Pearsall is already injured. Brandon Ayuk's already injured. And today, with the wide receiver room, I guess you can say weakened for a variety of reasons, Jacob Cowing was hoping to get off to a really good start to begin training camp in a very pivotal year 2 for him. Unfortunately, after running routes against air and on air, He pulled his hamstring. Now, we don't know exactly how severe it is or maybe how non-serious it may be, but Jacob Cowing can be added to the list of wide receivers that are injured for the San Francisco 49ers. It sucks for Cowing, a player that I think many of us have high hopes for in year number 2, and a player that, if you're going to lose Ayuk for a large chunk of the season, Pearsall's injury, although looks like it's not severe as once thought, and Jauan Jennings wanting a contract, how does that thing work itself out? And Demarcus Robinson likely being suspended. Cowing was going to be a very pivotal piece to the receiver depth chart and core this season. I'm hoping it's very minimal for how much time he misses, but if it's serious enough, the Niners could be in the running for a new veteran receiver on the free agent market, but fingers crossed and holding out hope that Cowing can get back, because this is a very big training camp for him. If he shows off, maybe he can kind of buck or push somebody down the depth chart who's currently in front of him, or just become a very consistent producer in an offense that no longer has Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk injured. Speaking of wide receiver injuries, Ricky Pearsall coming into his second year with the organization. He's supposed to be this team's wide receiver number 1 and replace Brandon Ayuk in the first few weeks of the season. He injured his hamstring during the OTA periods and didn't practice the entire time. The reports were that he'll be back by day number 1. That was today. He was not back on the field in a jersey, but was working with a trainer on the sideline today and was even seen doing some sprints. According to head coach Kyle Shanahan, Ricky Pearsall did reach his maximum miles per hour when it comes to running, so a really good sign. Pearsall may be back by the end of the week. I said yesterday that I wouldn't be shocked to see him back by Monday, the first day of pads, but even Kyle Shanahan said today he'd be shocked if he wasn't activated by Sunday, so maybe even sooner San Francisco gets Pearsall back than I expected, albeit just one day ago. More injury news here coming your way. Offensive lineman Ben Barch, who is probably going to be this team's starting left guard to enter the season, was also doing some work with training with a trainer on the sideline today. That also aligns with Shanahan saying Barch shouldn't miss too much time. So all the injuries San Francisco had, maybe outside of Malik Mustafa and Yetur Gross-Matos and Andre Dillard, they've all been pretty good positive reports coming out of training camp thus far. Pearsall and Barch both practicing, or at least doing work on the sideline today with trainers. After practice, Kyle Shanahan talked to the media and was pretty positive about second-year running back Isaac Guerendo. If you watched podcasts last year and during the draft last year, you know how high I was on Isaac Guerendo and how I believed he was the perfect Shanahan running back in last year's draft. And I was pretty pleased in how things worked themselves out for me in regards to my scouting. But the second year for him, knowing that Jordan Mason is now gone, knowing that Christian McCaffrey, for as healthy as he is now, things can change pretty quickly for the veteran. Guerendo is going to take a large chunk of the reps this season, and Kyle Shanahan today essentially praised, which is not very common, he'll praise a player that's young like Guerendo, but he went out of his way to praise him. He said he had a great OTAs, and he's put himself in a position to be better this year. Guerendo also took first-team reps, as Christian McCaffrey did not take any team reps, so Jordan James, Corey Kiner, Patrick Taylor all were slotted behind Isaac Guerendo, who is currently leading the charge for the running back 2 job in day number 1 of training camp. Bobo says here in regards to Nick Bosa, $40 million a year, you better play wherever they tell you to play, Bosa. Not sure if that is a directive from Robert Saleh, but it certainly is a good sign to see Bosa wanting to play inside coming into, what is it, year 3 now of his contract extension. And Lori Matthews, my girl, where you been? She says these guys need to stretch and hydrate. I hope the training staff or trainers focus on that. It's shocking how many injuries San Francisco has, especially at wide receiver with the hamstrings. I don't know if that's a hydration issue or a stretching issue. there are some rumors that these guys simply just don't stretch much. Having been there, I haven't put too much thought into that when I watch them play or practice. But look, I tell my wife, I need you to drink about 6 to 8 glasses of water a day. I'm out there chugging liters a day saying, look, one, water is good for your skin, it's good for your gut, and it's good for your health. You would like to think these athletes are hydrating plenty, but you never know. But you're certainly hoping the injury bug really decides not to bite San Francisco, and at least thus far, it's not been too severe of a bite to hurt them to a high level in training camp. We also got our first look at Alfred Collins today, this team's second-round draft pick in this past year's draft. And when I tell you, man, he's a big boy. He's a giant of a man. He's thick. I might even say he's girthy in all the right ways. He is a man that is dwarfing other men on the practice field. He looks like he is a mountain out there. And look, this team already has some big dudes, Micah Williams and Nick Bosa and others along the way. Alfred Collins is the biggest of them all, which is good. It's good to see him out there for the first time since being drafted. Didn't practice during the OTA sessions or minicamp because of an ankle injury and was not signed, but now he is signed to his rookie deal, and he's out there for the first time. He looks healthy. He only got work with the second team today, so they're probably going to ease him back into the fray, and I'm hoping once he is eased it back in and feels 100% again, that he's up there taking first-team reps, because he's a space-clogging, space-eating defensive tackle, and this team needs him, so good to see him out there. The first impressions was really, holy hell, he's big. Holy crap. Like, wow. And it's a really good sign to see for a player that is supposed to take a very big spot on the defense this season. Laurie Matthews says here, let's hope that size translate to stopping the run. Honestly, you're correct, but even to a further extent, hoping that size leads to clogging lanes to free up Nick Bosa, Bryce Huff, and Micah Williams on third downs if Collins is afforded that ability to play all 3 downs. Some more players I want to get into before getting into my direct takeaways and get into Brock Purdy and Jauan Jennings on the practice field today. It was a rather light practice. Obviously no pads, so there isn't too much to take away from today's practice as much as you will on Monday when pads come on. But I was really impressed by rookies Jordan James and Jordan Watkins today. The way they move, they just look like they belong in the NFL. Now, will that translate to the actual games and pads and preseason? We'll see when we get there, but they both run pretty smooth. I'm under the impression that Jordan James will play a heck of a lot more than Jordan Watkins in year one. I think Jordan James, his skill set translates to what this offense needs more than Jordan Watkins in year one. Being an inside zone runner, having all 15 touchdowns, be in the red zone for the Oregon Ducks last season. I think he is really the Jordan Mason replacement, which, funny enough, they share the exact same first name for a reason. So all that seems to work itself out. But they both look like they belong. They're smooth runners and smooth route runners. And I'm hoping that, for a team that really is reliant on young players, that both of them, Jordan James and Jordan Watkins, can progress quickly, because if they can, it makes the Niners' depth chart a lot deeper than we think it currently is. And even Jordan Watkins, who I don't think will play much in your number one, he had almost one of the most insane catches of the day. Now, it's not an Odell Beckham Jr., David Tyree helmet catch, but it was almost a really good catch for a young player. Now, almost doesn't mean much because it doesn't actually result in a catch, but I don't know who was covering him, but he was hand-fighting with the defensive back with his right arm, trying to get the arms down and whatnot, and he kind of turned and almost caught the ball with his left arm from a really good pass from Tanner Mordecai, who had a kind of solid day in his own right. But Jordan Watkins, for as little as he may play, in the OTAs and minicamp sessions, and even today in training camp day one, has looked a little better than I think we all initially believed. We all know he's fast. We all know that he does possess some traits that this team has whiffed on in previous years. Danny Gray, Dante Pettis, they're very similar, albeit not the same. Jordan Watkins, I think, has a knack for the football that those guys didn't. Danny Gray really couldn't do much, and he was more of had terrible hands. Whereas Jordan Watkins, I do think in a short spurt or a short stint thus far, has shown a little bit more than those guys have. And Bobo saying Ronnie Bell is the king of almost catching the football. I won't say I'm more pleased with Watkins than Ronnie Bell, but obviously Watkins is a higher draft pick. Bell being a 7th rounder, just really never had a chance and never did much to prove that. But I think Jordan Watkins on the offset has a much higher chance to contribute than Ronnie Bell for a variety of reasons. But one of those, I think, being his hands, his speed. Bell doesn't have the speed, or didn't have the speed. Now he's gone off the team. But Jordan Watkins, to me, from a projection, looks like he's going to be a more consistent contributor for the offense, albeit how much is that compared to Ronnie Bell? I don't know. Ronnie Bell was actively hurting the team last year in a variety of ways, so we'll have to see what Jordan Watkins can do as a rookie. But, man, I really am... I really have been impressed thus far with what Jordan Watkins has put on film and on tape. Now, maybe there's things we don't know about, but it's a good sign for a young player to fight through contact, and almost come down with what would have been the best catch of the day by far. Calachipto says here, Isaiah Nayor is Bell in a bigger package. A lot of people like Isaiah Nayor from Nebraska. He was a UDFA, and I get it. The speed's there. The production just wasn't there. He certainly feels like a UDFA practice squad player you stash for a year and hope can blossom with a couple years on the practice squad. But I think a lot of people will be shocked when he's a big dude, but he can also fly. So I think the hands are a little better from Nayor compared to Bell, but I also don't think Nayor will do much as a return man. Like, Bell was brought in to be, a receiver, but also a punt returner if he had to fill in there, which didn't work out either. But I think Nayor is a practice squad stash compared to someone that can help you on special teams. And I think I saw Watkins, Patrick Taylor, and others, but those were the two big ones that were doing a lot of the kick return, punt return stuff on the new field out there in Santa Clara.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem. So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed's sponsored jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
Calachipto also says here, if Watkins didn't hurt his hamstring early last year, he would have had 1,200 plus yards and would have been a bigger name in the draft. I completely agree. The minute Trey Harris went down for Ole Miss, or excuse me, not Trey Harris. I'm forgetting his name, but I digress. The other receiver at Ole Miss, the minute he went down, it was the Jordan Watkins show, and he was slicing and dicing defense as one of the best deep ball catchers in football at the NCAA level last year. So the hopes are high, but the production may be low. And Tommy's in here with the other fairies. How's it going, guys? I want to continue with my notes because we have a little bit more of the receiver room to get to. Russell Gage caught 3 passes today from the quarterbacks, and Demarcus Robinson, who the NFL has yet to make a decision on in regards to a suspension, also caught 3 passes, looked really good. Veterans showing off early, which is to be expected. You expect older veteran players to hit the ground running compared to younger guys like Jordan Watkins or Nayor. In the receiver room, Papa J says, "What's up, Sterling? What's up, Papa J?" And let's pause for 1 second because I want to get into my takeaways of Brock Purdy, who was the starting offensive line during team drills, some interesting defensive lines that were established today, being the first team defense, and then get into Jauan Jennings and the illustrious kicking competition. But first, Papa J says here, don't forget to like and subscribe. And I want to let everybody know out there, you can use our promo code 49ersaccess, 49 ERSACCESS at SeatGeek.com if you want to save yourself $20 off your first purchase. Go to SeatGeek.com. Go find yourself some tickets to watch these San Francisco 49ers play this year, or with summer coming to an end very soon, you want to maximize the next month, a couple weeks or so without the kids in school. Go out there, go get some concert tickets, some theme park tickets. Go to SeatGeek.com and save yourself $20 off your first purchase by using promo code 49ers Access. Okay. It's time to get to the meat and potatoes of the show today, because everybody wants to know how the new $53 million man Brock Purdy did in his first training camp. And overall, it was a pretty solid day for Brock. There was a very big highlight, and there was also some lowlights you'd want to see cleaned up. But again, it's the first day of training camp. I'm not going to become this over-sensationalist and blow things out of proportion for you. If you want that, don't come here for the show. But I'm going to give it to you straightforward in the facts that Brock Purdy was 10 of 13 today, and did force some passes. But the first pass of training camp from him in team drills was a doozy, because I don't know if it was let's see some fireworks, because he said, we are throwing this thing out. We are flinging the ball around today and having a good time. The first throw of practice was just a deep bomb downfield, a corner route to George Kittle. It was a pretty eccentric way to start, an electric way to start training camp for Brock Purdy after signing a $212 million contract or extension this offseason with the team. But it was like, oh, okay, like we are starting off strong. We are hitting the ground running for Brock. But funny enough, for as good as that first throw was, the next two were equally as bad for Brock. He quickly came down to earth. Kittle was celebrating. I think Lenore bit on the coverage and just left Kittle wide open on the deep throw. It was bang right into his arms. It was a perfect throw from Brock. But the next two throws weren't great whatsoever. The next two were actually intercepted, which people may make too much of. The first one was batted down at the line of scrimmage, and then kind of floated in the air near Demarcus Robinson, where Jason Pinnock, of all people, who has had a tremendous beginning to his Niner tenure in practice, dove for it, picked it off, and it was like, okay, for a great Brock and Kittle highlight, the chemistry being still there, what a phenomenal Jason Pinnock highlight for him, a diving interception. He was all over the football during OTs and mini camps, so that's continuing here. I believe I said this morning with Dre Area Sports, or even maybe yesterday with Aaron Labigan from Niners First Takes, that Pinnock is probably going to start for this team to begin the year, and I wouldn't be shocked to see him utilized similar to how they utilized Talanoa Hufanga, and I would love to see three safety sets with Mustafa once he's healthy, Jair Brown at a free safety, and Pinnock playing in the box, because he is always near the football. Now, again, it's day one of training camp, but he has shown that last year with the Giants, and there's a reason why he was given guaranteed money to begin the year. So I'm really hoping that Pinnock can keep it up, because the promise he has shown the first couple weeks of seeing him in person, it looks really, really good. The next pass, though, from Brock was also intercepted. I couldn't tell if it was an in route or a slant route, but nonetheless, it was a in-breaking route of some sorts to Luke Farrell. Purdy just did not see D. Winters, and then bang, right into his hands, picked it off. D. Winters showing the explosiveness and just how good he is in coverage. I am of the belief that D. Winters is going to win this job. Had a great OTAs, had a great minicamp, and I think he's by far, whether it's ahead of or in line to become the starter next to Fred Warner, D. Winters has been tremendous thus far in the offseason program. Love what I see from him. He's so explosive. The instincts are there, especially in pass coverage. And if D. Winters can be healthy and become a better tackler of the sorts, I think he is in position to be that blossoming young player in the defense in 2025. Papa J says here, if our defense made interceptions, that just shows we're going in the right direction with them. People are trying to take credit away from our defense and blame Brock. I haven't seen too much of the blaming Brock stuff just yet. I do think that, you can certainly get into, Brock being a shorter quarterback and the ball being, kind of batted by a defensive player at the line of scrimmage, and then, Brock not seeing a player. Some of those things are just happenstance. They happen. But, I think, again, in practice, you want your quarterback forcing throws, trying to make plays and do things with his legs or with his arm. This is the time to do it. This is the time you want to see your quarterback not be afraid to take swings and miss and sometimes hit, to know what he can do when the actual games come in week 1 of the NFL season. But I think our defense, in a very, very, very minimal time seeing them, and with no pads and not preseason or the regular season, I'm not going to say they're going to be great or whatnot, but there has been a very, I don't want to say very high, but there has been a lot of interceptions, and the defense, having their nose to the football pretty early in the offseason program thus far, and that happened today with 2 picks off of Brock Purdy. Bobo says here, Jimmy G threw a lot of interceptions and still led us to a Super Bowl. Correct. The thing is, though, you don't want to throw interceptions. Jimmy G just had for whatever reason, could somehow throw a pick, the defense would stop them, and then he'd go back and have an amazing touchdown drive to kind of offset it. Now, Brock has seemingly done less damage to the offense than Jimmy Garoppolo has, but again, more picks now hopefully means less picks later, which seems to be how Brock has done in previous years. But I think today it was a great play by Jason Pinnock, so credit goes to him. And then D. Winters doing his thing, just being great in coverage. He was great in coverage last year, and I don't think that's going to stop. I think it will also be the biggest difference maker in the battle for the linebacker 2 job during the training camp sessions. That said, Brock did finish strong, so his first 3 passes were a deep bomb downfield to Kittle, back-to-back picks, but then Brock finished, what is that going, let me think, math is hard, finished 10 for 13, so going 9 for his next 11, so a pretty good day for Brock to end after a relatively great start, then a bad, right after it. So Brock ended strong. Again, clean some things up, but it's first day, so there's not going to be any harsh judgments on the show this early in training camp. The starting offensive line today was pretty interesting too. It's pretty. I thought it was pretty obvious of the replacements, because you have Trent, who will be this team's starting left tackle, but the backup left tackle position I think is kind of already wrapped up. I don't view that being a competition in any means. I think Spencer Burford is in line to take Jalen Moore's job as the backup left tackle to Trent Williams. He was the backup left guard last year, but now with Moore gone, Burford slides over to tackle. He was taking, quote-unquote first team reps in team drills today, while Trent did not participate in the team drills himself. So Burford was your starting left tackle with Ben Barch injured on the NFI list. Nick Zakel was getting starting left guard reps with the first team. Then Brendel, Pooney, and McKivitz were the obvious remaining starting offensive linemen. But again, it's so hard to assess offensive line play really throughout the entirety of training camp, knowing that the defense just kind of has the upper hand on them. And even then, it's hard to assess a lot of these guys without pads on throughout the entirety of training camp. So once Monday comes, we'll get a better idea. But even then, it's still hard. It's more about the alignments and what San Francisco is showing. But I think that right there, seeing Burford at the left tackle position behind Trent Williams and Nick Zakelj, I think you kind of are already seeing where things will stack up, barring injury, when the season begins. I think Burford has, he wasn't very comfortable playing on the right side of the offensive line, and he's transitioned back over to the left side. And even last year, he was playing left guard, and then now has moved to left tackle. So there's been a lot of movement for him. I think he's a work in progress. I'm not going to disagree with Brad Graham from the SF Niners with what Tommy Huxley says, doesn't like Burford's footwork. I think to give him some, benefit of the doubt, he has transitioned from 3 new positions in a 2-year or 3-year time span, if you will. So give it some time. I think working with Trent will certainly help him a lot. I think his body needs to get, your body changes from playing right guard to left tackle. So you're hoping that there can be a balance found in there with him. I'm not sure San Francisco plans to utilize him as a left guard, left tackle this year, but it does seem like they want him to simply be a left tackle moving forward behind Trent. Maybe if he can, grow early or grow throughout training camp, I think you may be talking about, I don't want to say the heir apparent, but if Trent goes down, Burford is certainly going to be the guy behind him this season, whether it is out of just because they have nobody behind Burford or there's nobody else there to have. I know they wanted to get DJ Humphries in there, but he didn't sign. Now he's with the Rams, and they have Dillard, but Dillard's a right tackle, so Burford really has the upper hand on the backup left tackle position. Going to the starting defense, again, Nick Bosa not involved in team reps. That said, the starting first team defensive line on day 1 of training camp was Sam Ekwonu, so not even Bryce Huff out there. Sam Ekwonu. You had Kevin Givens, who I think is probably in line to be one of the starters to begin the year. Hopefully that changes with CJ West growing to that player. And then Jordan Elliott, who I think, again, a veteran incumbent player who really wasn't great last year, I think is probably better positioned to play on base downs early in the season as younger guys progress. Then Mykel Williams, who is just a mammoth of a human being. He's so freaking strong. You can't assess one-on-ones with the defense and the offensive line until pads come on. But once pads come on, man, it is going to be so fun to watch Mykel against Trent and Pooney and Brendel, McKivitz, all those guys, but mainly Pooney and Trent, because Mykel has the unique ability to go inside, so he'll have the chance to play against Barch and Zakelj and Brendel and Pooney and also the tackles. So just seeing that raw power that he has play against those guys is going to be so fun to watch once pads come on. But I'm also not going to assess a defensive player going against an offensive player without pads on, especially on the line of scrimmage. It's so unfair to assess either one of those guys. There's no point to it, but I do think that Mykel is, the ceiling is so high for him. He's not raw, but there's some growth that needs to be had, but the raw skills that he does have, being that power, the run defense, it's going to be so fun to watch once the pads come on. But again, surprisingly, no Bryce Huff in the first team, no Nick Bosa in the first team, albeit he was not doing any team drills. And again, no Alfred Collins in the first team, but I think that'll change once he finds his footing and gets back into the fray of the training sessions after not signing and having an ankle injury throughout the OTA sessions. Linebackers was Fred Warner, D. Winters, and Luke Gifford signed from the Tennessee Titans as a special teamer this offseason. So no Nicholas Martin, no Tatum Bethune as one of the linebackers, and no Chaz Surratt, who was signed as a New York Jet free agent who was saw last year out there in the Big Apple. So I think, again, that's probably where things will stand. I know that the Niners seemingly want to give Nicholas Martin the weak side reps, hence why he was with the second team. I don't know if that'll change once pads come on. on Monday, or if they want to get him kind of acclimated to playing the weak side more often than not. But not shocked he was not working with the first team. But I think right there, like, you're getting a good idea as to where things stand at the beginning of training camp with Warner and Winters highlighting that first two linebackers of the three groupings. Cornerbacks were Demo Lenore, no shock there. Renardo Green also playing the outside and nickelback. Not the band, not give me a photograph, none of that garbage, but Trey Brown was starting at the nickelback position to begin training camp for San Francisco. Has looked really good so far in the offseason program. I think right now has the upper hand on the cornerback job, but Upton Stout was the first man off the bench, per se, to fill in for Trey Brown. And Kyle Shanahan had a lot of praise for Upton Stout during his post-practice press conference. He, again, he rarely will praise a rookie, especially, but a young player that has not yet taken a rep at the NFL level. He was very accommodating to Upton Stout. There was a play today where I don't remember their wide receiver, and funny enough, Upton Stout gave up the catch, but he is a very sticky and instinctual coverage player. You can just tell there's a reason why Robert Stahl wanted to bring him in and have him on his defense. He's feisty, sticky in coverage, was during OTAs, was during minicamp, but Upton Stout looks every bit as advertised, if not more thus far. I think of the cornerback room, he has the most room to progress from, let's say, cornerback 5, if he is there now, because he usually won't play the outside, whereas Trey Brown can. I think Upton Stout has a very good shot to win that starting nickelback job out of training camp and out of preseason. There was a play today, kind of already talked about it, but it was a near the sideline play. I don't know who the cornerback was or who the receiver was, but Stout was in coverage, sticky, almost undercut it, and could have had a pick six. The ball he just didn't time it right. But I think that shows you like where his mindset's at. He wants the football desperately. He is always fighting for leverage, for ground. Again, once pads come on, we'll get more of an indication as to where he is in his coverage skills. But Upton Stout looks pretty good. If you're going back to everyone's worst nightmares question here, saying which rookie stood out to you the most, I'm hard-pressed to say Upton Stout may be that one thus far. Obviously, we didn't get much from Collins and Williams. Again, no pads on, can't really assess where they're at. But in the very small glimpses we had of Upton Stout, he has looked like a really good defensive player for them. And Shanahan seemingly believes so too, praising him a lot during his post-practice press conference. I'm going to save the Jauan Jennings talk because I do want to dive into everyone's maybe most anticipated competition, that being the kickers, folks. Everyone loves a good kicking competition. Oh, wait, I almost forgot. Jair Brown and Jason Pinnock rounded out the starting 11 on defense, so they were your safeties. Okay, the kicking competition. Sorry about that. Usually on days like this, again, San Francisco has just completely redone their practice field. So in normal days, they roll out the goalposts. They have the refs run out there. They have the entire units scramble on and off the field during the special teams sessions. But now they have the goalpost like in place, locked in, and they no longer have to run them out there when they want to do some kicking. And they usually alternate days where it's Jake Moody one day and Greg Joseph the next, whereas today it was Jake gets a kick, Greg gets a kick, Jake gets a kick, Greg gets a kick. And they were not sure if that was to kind of shake things up, or that's just the Brant Boyer style of things, or maybe that changes tomorrow too, or they want to maximize how many reps both those guys get, knowing that it really is anyone's job at this point. There really is no upper hand. I think Greg Joseph has been more accurate thus far through the last OTA and minicamp sessions, but Jake has, again, the better leg when it comes to, power, if you will. But both guys were perfect today from 30 yards, 35 yards, 40 yards, and 50 yards. And it's very rare that a kicking competition catches the eye of, let's say, a quarterback or a star linebacker, or in this case, Nick Bosa. But Nick Bosa was pretty open about, I am glued in. I am watching the Jake Moody, Greg Joseph competition closely, and it's, funny because you don't ever want to speculate and say, the team knows kicking has been an issue the last couple of years, but when you look back to last year and you have Deebo Samuel, karate chopping, Tabor Pepper against the Buccaneers because Jake Moody can't make kicks, now you're seeing a former defensive player of the year, this team's, one of their best defensive players and leaders and captains saying, yeah, we are watching the kicking competition closely. I think it does put a little more pressure on the position because this team knows, we're probably going to be in some close games. Yes, they have a easier schedule, but kicking and the kicking position, I think, is going to decide a lot of the games this year against the Rams, against the Seahawks, against the Cardinals, against the Texans. Yes, San Francisco has a lot of the surrounding elements to have a really good season, but if you don't have a kicker, you're going to lose some of these games. Saw it last year. Saw it 2 years ago, where games are tight, 20-23, 24-27, 17-20, and Jake just can't get it done. So to hear Nick Bosa say, yeah, we have our eyes and we are watching things closely, kind of goes to show, this team realizes that, we got to have a kicker. I'm not sure if he was saying that somewhat tongue-in-cheek, but it didn't seem that way. It seemed like Nick was being pretty serious about, we got to figure this thing out because we know if we have 6 rookies or 6 new starters on defense and the receiver room is kind of in disarray right now and we have Brock and Christian McCaffrey, but if he goes down, we're going to be in some close games. We got to figure this thing out because if we don't, it could not be great. It could not be great. But I think this team realizes that. There's a reason they brought in Greg Joseph, who I don't love as a kicker, but if he's more accurate from inside the 40, then I don't care. You don't need to hit kicks from 56 yards to be good. If you're accurate inside the 30-yard line, we're going to be in a good place. And so I think that's where my mindset's at. Now, I do still think Jake Moody wins the competition, but this is day one. A lot of days ahead of us, and a lot can change for a player like Jake Moody. And funny enough, Jake Moody has always been a really good practice kicker, so you can argue that Jake can be great and perfect through training camp, but if he comes game time in the preseason and he's bad, to me, the training camp and practice kicks don't matter. I am so much more focused on what happens in preseason game 1, 2, and 3 because that is where Jake and his struggles have come to light and come to fruition. Whereas training camp, I've seen him make a 67-yarder. So, yeah, it's important to note, but really doesn't matter when it comes to Jake Moody. Benali P says here in the YouTube comments, in fairness to Jake Moody, Bosa kind of sucked in the Jake Moody disaster class game 2. I'm assuming you mean the Buccaneers game where Nick Bosa kind of got stiff-armed by Baker Mayfield. Yeah, not his best highlight for Nick Bosa, but it wouldn't have looked as bad had the team had an extra 12 points, 9 points on the board. But still, Bobo says here, Jake must feel pretty good for the team getting rid of Deebo Samuel for disrespecting him. You can say that now, but if Jake Moody's also cut, he's not going to care about Deebo Samuel being on either. But it would be pretty funny if Jake Moody found his way to Washington or wherever Deebo Samuel's at in 2 years' time, and those two guys are teammates once again. It would be pretty funny if that was the case. But I do want to get to the final topic of today's show, that being Double J, Jauan Jennings, because talk about just the relief. Because, look, John and Kyle can say whatever they want during their press conferences. Oh, we firmly believe he'll be here. And they say that all the time. Nick Bosa wasn't there. Brandon Ayuk was there, albeit not practicing. And although it wasn't a distraction, just wasn't being a non-distraction, if you will, during training camp last year.
This episode is brought to you by Nespresso Virtual Coffee Machines. Ready to enjoy the bold flavors of barista-quality Nespresso iced coffee at home? Simply fill a glass with ice and press the brew button on your virtual pop machine to enjoy rich double espressos roasted to stand up even when chilled. Refreshingly bold iced coffee. Refreshingly easy to make at home. Visit Nespresso.com to shop now.
But talk about just how great it was to see Jauan Jennings being a leader out on the field today, rocking some blue hair, and just being a leader. It's like that's what you want from a guy who, probably isn't going to get paid $30 million a year from the San Francisco 49ers, but realizes how important these days are, how important getting the offense established as soon as possible, building chemistry with the receivers, tight ends, and more importantly, his quarterback. Jauan was a big benefactor of being there every single day during last offseason, hence his near 1,000-yard season in 2024. And I think he realizes that, look, I'm going to get paid. I think it's a great sign and a good indication that contract talks are in a pretty good place. I wouldn't even call this a hold-in. If I was describing it, it would just say he wants a contract, but it'll get done when it gets done. Now, things may change if things don't get done soon, but I think it's a really good sign that Jauan was there in practice, a full participant, I may add, did more than Christian McCaffrey and Nick Bosa and Trent Williams did. So a lot can be said for that. Jauan is just the epitome of a leader. If you could, you'd put a captain patch on him too. He means so much to this team, their third down mentality, to the offense. Yeah, he isn't the strongest guy, biggest guy, and at certain points might indeed be the slowest guy at the receiver spot, but he just is a gamer and a grinder, and you cannot classify those guys in any other form outside of that. But Jauan was out there setting an example. He was dancing and having fun and leading the receiver room where no Pearsall, no Ayuk, and then eventually no Cowing. You got to have your leaders out there, and he was one of the loudest ones and most vocal ones on the field today. And it helps when he also plays well. Jauan had one of the better catches of the day on an in-cutting route. He went 3 for 3, I believe, on the day. Caught all 3 passes he was targeted to. So a really, really good showing from a player of Jauan Jennings who wants to get paid, and albeit in a non-padded practice in the first day of training camp, was kind of showing, like, in good faith to the front office, I'm here. I'm doing exactly what you want me to do. Reward me for this. And also, I'm going to play well too. So that to me is just, like, I already wasn't panicked of a deal getting done between San Francisco and Jauan, but seeing Jauan out there having fun, playing well, and it seemingly not being a story at all, despite a big report from Schefter coming out last week, this to me is one of the biggest, almost guaranteed deals that'll get done of the offseason. I don't know what it'll be when it's all said and done, but really great to see Jauan out there. He didn't talk to the media after practice, but I'm sure if he was, it would be very lighthearted. Jauan's always got a big smile on his face and did today, despite being in a somewhat of a contract dispute with the team. So a really good sign there. And I do want to highlight that Kyle Shanahan, they've had so many contract disputes with, whether it's Nick Bosa, Fred Warner, Brock Purdy, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk. They've had so many of these negotiations that have gone wrong or that have kind of just taken too long and guys have held out and they've held it in. He was asked today, that being Kyle Shanahan, what makes this different? And when Jauan's out there, what does that mean to him as a head coach and also the front office during a time where a player is wanting a new contract and maybe has threatened to ask for a trade if it isn't met?
Does that move the needle at all in the minds of the coaches with the kind of guy you have in Jauan Jennings and maybe wanting to give him what he wants because he wants to give you guys what you guys want?
Yeah, I don't think we know Jauan and Jauan knows us. I think the other way makes it harder. But it's, I don't really compare things to other years and other people. People have plans. It's a business plan. It's usually a plan between a player and agent, and I see it happen all over the league. It's happened with us, and it's something that I try not to get too worked up about because there's not always much I can do about it. So I always try to recommend them to do what I think will help them the most, and I think Jauan's doing that.
We know Jauan, and Jauan knows us. If that is not a telling statement of, look, it helps when Jauan's here. It helps to get things done. Whenever a player is in person, you can have those open conversations. You can talk to his agent. That was why it was such a great sign to see Brock Purdy's agent at the Combine this year. Things got done quickly because, they were active and they were proactive, but also they were in person, face-to-face, having those conversations. And I know it didn't work out well for Ayuk last year. Granted, there was a higher price tag to his name and the team was in a very different spot financially, but having Jauan there in person, like I already said, is a big deal to getting a deal done with him. And I think the way Jauan has handled this thus far, which hasn't been loud, hasn't been boisterous, hasn't been this long, drawn-out thing, I think it really does make San Francisco, I guess you could say, more willing to give him what he wants. Whenever you operate in good faith, most owners, bosses are going to give you what you want, or at least close to it. Usually if you're respected and do things the right way and you're honest, good things happen to you, or at least you hope they happen to you. Again, comparing Jauan to Ayuk isn't entirely fair because of the price tags involved, but the way Ayuk went about things last year with the trade requests, going on podcasts, talking to TMZ, making things pretty known that he was not afraid to leave and in his own right, making things harder than they should have been. Whereas Jauan's like, look, I want a contract. I want it to be with the San Francisco 49ers. Yes, if things go awry and they get worse, I will ask to get traded, but I don't really want to be traded. This is Jauan essentially telling them, look, I'm here, I'm present, let's get this thing done. I'm doing things the right way because I want to be here. I know how important these days are to get ready for the season. I know how important this season is. Now, Jauan certainly holds some leverage, and so does San Francisco, but this really does seem like one of the extensions they have handed out, maybe outside of Brock Purdy and Fred Warner and George Kittle. It just feels like a home run waiting to happen for them. Again, the price tag, I have no idea what it'll be, but this may be one of the easiest negotiations they have to get done because just Jauan feels like the right guy at the right time and him doing things the right way. That usually leads to things getting done quicker, and I really would not be shocked by the end of the weekend. Now, I'm not saying that's going to happen, but it would not shock me if this thing gets done pretty quickly because it just seems like it's leading towards that. Both sides respect each other so much, and I think they value what both bring to the table so much from a player, a head coach, and a front office standpoint. And Jauan also isn't asking for break-the-bank money. Now, if he was, he's probably going to get traded, but if he's asking for $20 million or $24 million or $36 million over the course of 3 to 2 years, it just makes it easy. Right? if you're an honest and just person, usually you're going to get what you want at the end of the day, if it's feasible. And in this case, it does seem like it's pretty feasible for Jauan to get paid and this team feel comfortable about their finances this year and going into the future. So I think that gets done. But that's all I have for you today on day one of 49ers training camp. Happy they are back. Happy 49er football is back in our lives. Look, it's so great. It was a long, boring off season, but we're back. We're here. We are ramping things up. The show is going to come back every single day there is training camp, and even if there isn't, we may have some shows down the road for you as well. Stay tuned throughout the entirety of the week as we enter into the padded practices on Monday, and we continue with week one of San Francisco 49ers training camp in 2025. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe on the audio podcast platforms. Leave us that 5-star review. I want to reach 100 by week one of the regular season. It's a big ask, but I think we can get there. Only need 70 more. So not too far off. Only need 70 more if you can. Tell your friends, tell your family about the show, and let's grow the faithful of the podcast to a higher and brighter limit in 2025. I want to thank Papa J, Bobo, Tommy Huxley, Benali P, Kawachipto, Lori Matthews, everyone's worst nightmare in the YouTube comments, and many, many more. All the fairies in the YouTube comments. You guys are great. I appreciate you. I love you. If you want to, you can follow us on social media at 49ers_access is the X or Twitter. 49ers.access is the Instagram. Thanks right back out to you, Papa J. Go ahead and use that promo code 49ERSAccess, 49 ERSACCESS at SeatGeek.com to save yourself $20 off your first purchase of baseball tickets, Niner tickets, or anywhere else you want to go in the next few months as the NFL season pretty much is here, but inches closer to the regular season. As always, my name is Sterling Bennett, wrapping up day one of training camp reactions. And until next time, stay faithful.